Hey everybody, and welcome to the Rock and Roll Farming Podcast. And today I am tremendously excited to be heading over to Bedfordshire to talk to farmer Mike Duxbury. Mike, how are you?
Good morning. Well, I'm great, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Would you describe yourself as a farmer, Mike? If someone met you at a party or in an elevator somewhere, and they ask you what you did, is that what you'd say?
Well, I tried to say rock star, but they take one look at me and just so,
Me.
yeah, farmer is definitely me.
Yeah, well, yeah. I only ask because you do a lot of different things. I mean, I suppose I do. Well, I'm here doing this podcast now. Although I've been up since very early this morning, running around trying to do lots of things on the farm. But I sometimes get asked, "Are you still a farmer? Are you still a farmer?" Yes, I am. I just sort of trying to juggle lots of different things. So,
Yeah, no. In Scotland, I'd probably called a crofter.
yeah,
Down here, I'd probably called a smallholder. But no, I'm a farmer through and through, job done.
good. I think that's it with farmers, isn't it? I think even if we even if you ever sort of retire, that's hard to imagine. But if you sort of retired or left farming, you'd still define yourself as a farmer, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of
I
course you would,
think. I think.
because it's just a way of life, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. So did you grow up on a farm? Are you from a farming background?
Yes, brought up in Worcestershire, mixed farm. Um, mainly beef and sheep and arable and
Yep.
potato. Um, but being realistic because of my own situation, when I went into farming proper myself, I found my little niche, which was pigs.
Yeah, okay.
And being realistic, that I was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. All right. So were you from a long line of farmers, proper sort of farming history
No,
family?
no. My father originally was a well, he was an engineer for Jaguar Racing.
Oh wow. Okay.
We only took over the farm after later in life, really.
Okay.
But he was in the Royal Tank Corps originally, or Red Tank Regiment, whichever you want
Yeah.
to call it. Um, and then his love was mechanics and cars.
Okay.
My love is farming and cars.
Yeah, okay. So whereabouts in Worcestershire? I hadn't picked up on your Worcestershire accent before, but now you've
No.
said
Well,
you have got a
I'm
Worcestershire.
not originally from. We took over the farm. I went to the farm later, so but I was originally brought up in East Lancashire.
Ah, okay.
So I'm a Blackburn lad originally,
Oh, you right? Okay.
and I'm very proud of Lancashire lad. And my dad was a very proud Lancashire man. But yeah, it was these things happen, and but Dad sadly lost Dad quite young. So yeah, I was only involved with it a home farm for till the mid 90s.
Okay. All right. And you've said you've described it as your own situation. Podcast listeners might not realize, but you are blind, Mike. Tell
Yeah,
us about it.
totally blind. Lost my sight completely overnight when I was 6 through something called glaucoma.
Hmm.
Um, Back in the day, they couldn't deal with it. Today it would have been an easy fix. But my love of farming started um, around the age of 7, 8, and I just knew animals was something that was the one thing I never struggled with. No matter how big the animal. I mean, even yesterday, I said we had a meeting yesterday, and we had one of the goats come back from the vets. The first thing the goat does that never speaks to anybody came running up to me and snuggled into me, and that's how my response with animals has been all my life.
Yeah. Did you find? I guess going blind at such an early age, at 6, was that? I don't know if this is probably the stupidest question I've ever asked, but
No,
was
go
that
for it.
an incredibly traumatic experience, or at that age did you kind of just deal with it easier than perhaps you would have if you'd been older?
Well, I'll probably shock you when I'm going to say what I'm going to say next, but actually, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that, it defined me well.
Yeah. Okay.
It made
Let's see
me
that.
it made me realize that I had some choices to make, even at a young age. Um, because, of course, straight away, I wasn't going to be that racing Formula One racing driver or that pilot that many of us as children, train
Hmm.
drivers, and all these others want to be. One thing I've always been in my life is a realist.
Yeah.
I know my own limitations, but that doesn't stop you from wanting to follow your dream. Um, and I just knew that there must be something in agriculture I could do to satisfy both my love of agriculture and a future career.
So you always wanted to be a farmer, even from that age. It was always animals
Yeah,
and
seven
farming.
years, 7 years old at school, I was asked what I wanted to be, and I just put my hand up and said, I just want to be a farmer. And and if you ask me that question today at 57, I'd still say the same.
It's often the way for those of us in farming, isn't it? It's a strange,
Yeah,
it's so it gets under your skin, doesn't it?
yeah, we're a strange breed, but
We are.
it's for me as a blind person, it's given me a blooming amazing life because I've done everything I want to do, and not one person in farming has ever turned around and said to me, "How can you do that being blind?" People just said, "Well, you've turned up, you're here, you're whatever. You must be able to do it, or else you wouldn't be here."
Yeah. That,
Um,
yeah, that's pleasantly surprising because that might not be what people would expect. They might have expected to hear that there was a lot of barriers and people told you, well, you can't do that. That's ridiculous. But
oh, I certainly had all that, but
okay.
not from farming.
Okay.
I had it from professionals, I had it from teachers, I had it from lots of people around me. You wasted your time, you blah blah blah, bang it, but never from farming. Never. And I won't name names. I remember it was probably about 20 years ago going down to a pig farm in Cornwall. So I'll leave it at that. It's probably because there ain't many down there. And I remember turning up. The guy obviously didn't know I was blind.
Hmm.
And we sat down. He said, "Do you want tea?" I said, "Yeah, please. Yeah, good tea." He said, "Oh, so you're totally blind?" I said, "Yeah." This is great. Right. Can we sit down and talk about these pig nutrition feeds? And that was it.
Okay.
And that's how I always wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And I got my dream on that.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, growing up, when you were that little lad in school and you said you wanted to be a farmer, what kind of response did you get then?
Well, because I went to boarding school, and most of the other kids come from parents who were doctors, solicitors, judges.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the big hits at the time was the combine harvest song by the Wurzels. You, you could imagine the leg pulling I got.
Yeah.
And as I said, yeah, but I've got 20 acres and you got bugger all. But no, um, it was, it, yes, I was different. I've always been different, Will, because, and I don't mean this to sound cruel, but I remember once at the age of 10 saying to my dad, I don't want to be like them. And I never did. And I never have saw myself as being blind. I know I'm different and I've got my issues to deal with
Mhm.
on a daily basis, which I do.
Yeah.
But ultimately, um, I just, I want to give, you maybe understand this, I want to give the best I can. Um, but my giving is very much because I've had such a great life in farming. I want to help other people realize that because they've got a disability or blind or whatever, they don't have to give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
that's always been me.
Yeah.
Pain in the ass for most people say, because I just never give up.
Are you I, I, I guess people will be interested in this because some people will know have friends or family members who are blind, but a lot of us don't and would be interested. But are your as a result of being blind, are your other senses heightened? as a result? Because obviously, with working with animals, that's important, isn't it? Your senses
Yeah.
are really important.
And the answer to that question is absolutely. I remember once saying to another pig farmer, he called me up because I used to teach him, or tried to teach him, how to do AI properly. Um, and I remember sitting with him at the table once, and he said, "Oh, he said, you do something I never would do." I said, "What's that?" He said, "You've just been on my farm." He said, "And you've been in every boar pen, looked at the animals." He said, "But by hand, with your hands on them." He said, "They've never got aggressive with you." He
Mm.
said, "Most of the time, he said, I keep my distance from the boars, just let them out when I need to do the thing they need to do." He said, "But you'll walk in with a sow with a litter, pick up the litter, and never worry." I said, "Because the reason is the speed I move is different to you. Therefore, it never spooks the animal. And
Interesting.
also, the more I handle an animal, when there is a real problem, they don't mind me doing it because they're used to me handling them."
Mm.
And I think we can all learn from that, Will.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, really interesting because, it's is it a lot? I suppose the reason I ask is because a lot of farmers would say it's observation is the sort of key skill, but you're just observing in a different way, aren't you? Just observing, but not with your eyes, I
Well,
guess.
let me say this, and you worked around cattle and what have you, and sheep. But how much would you pick up with the onset of mastitis by looking at a cow?
Mm, yeah,
Yeah, but you feel it.
you feel it. Yeah,
You feel the lumpiness in the veins.
yeah,
You know, I think all I would say is, look, never am I ever going to diss sight, because sight. I live in a sighted world. It's very important. But I think for all of us could learn, including me, that the more of our we're given all these senses for a reason.
mm,
And touch, smell. I mean, God, when there's calf scouring, you
yeah,
can smell it.
mm,
You know when an animal is not well. You can smell it. You can, the heat from the body and the temperature. You can feel it. When a cow's bulling because you can feel the heat from it. Uh, if we all use those senses, we'll all be fine.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Okay, so tell us a bit about your career, Mike. You obviously were determined to be a farmer from a young age. How did that start off in terms of a career in farming?
Well, the start was absolutely atrocious, because the first thing I had to do when I left school with O levels and A levels, so that shows how old I am, doesn't it? Was persuade an agricultural college for me to go there.
Yeah,
Back in the day, there was 36 colleges, and I got 35 rejections.
yeah,
Um, and I guess I understand why. Um, but one college called me along, which was Morton Morrell in Warwickshire. And I happened to meet probably one of the most outstanding, influential people in my life, um, which was Professor Graham Suggett. Sadly, we lost Graham last year. Um, but he was a huge influence, because he sat down with me, and his words to me was, "Lads," he said, I haven't got a bloody clue how we're going to do this." He said, "But between us, let's work it out." And I
amazing.
said, "Well, look, let me come to your college farm for 2 weeks. Let me work on the different animals." I said, "And after that, if you think I'm good enough, let me have a place on a course." And the rest they say is history.
That's fantastic, isn't it? It's amazing sometimes in life what a difference people like that can make, isn't it? People who think differently or are willing to take a chance on someone or are willing to lift someone up,
Yeah.
they have such a ripple effect, don't they?
Yeah. And it's funny, because 2 weeks before he died last year, he sent an email to an old lecturer. And in that email, it's quite humbling, actually, because I didn't know this till they read the email to me and sent it to me. And he's just said, "Oh, I've followed the progress of one of my prodigies now for nearly 40 years."
Yeah.
And he says, "And how proud I am to see that investment he did and I did has turned into an amazing life in a career he desperately wanted."
Oh, God, isn't that lovely?
And,
Yeah.
we were very lucky, Will, to meet this guy and many others along the way. I've met some amazing farmers, some who dragged me off to Oxford occasionally. Uh, and no, but I've met some amazing people who have really influenced my life. In other words, by being open. And I've always wanted people never to hide. The conversation about disability can sometimes be sensitive.
Yeah.
And I want people just to ask the questions because, to be honest with you, I know what they want to ask anyway.
Hmm.
I've lived with it long enough. And it doesn't bother me. If it helps people better understand, that's only another form of education.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so you got through college. Uh,
Got through college, um, realised that I had a love for pigs, and being blunt about it, back in the 80s, majority of pigs were kept indoors.
yeah.
Well, that for a blind person was perfect because all I had to learn was the layout of a farm, a pig unit, and job done. I carried on. And that's exactly what happened. Went to the Pig and Poultry Fair in 1990 to have a mooch around in my last year. Met up with a guy called Jonathan Pauls from Paul's Agriculture. Loved my enthusiasm, and literally there and then on the spot offered me a job as a trainee pig nutritionist.
Fantastic. Did you ever
Um,
did you ever meet a fellow called David New at Paul's with on the pig side?
yes, I know the name, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we probably met.
Yeah. Okay. Only
Um,
David was a friend of mine, passed away fairly recently, but yeah, he's a
oh,
friend of my stepfather-in-law. That's why I asked. Farming's such a small industry, isn't it? We all know
it, it,
someone.
it is. It is. And I was very lucky. So I fell in love with the pig world, and I went out. And I was very good. In '89, I got awarded MPD's Pig Person of the Year, which I was very proud of and still am because I knew I'd made the right decisions. So then I just had to go on. So, as I said, I was with BOC and Paul's for a number of years. Then I became a stud manager on a boar stud, which I really enjoyed. Really enjoyed. The pay was rubbish, which is why I decided to take a Christmas job for 7 weeks in a little company called Vodafone,
Oh yeah.
um, and just to help because I just got married and my son was born, another William, um,
Good name.
and I went to Vodafone for 7 weeks. 10 years later, I was global head of diversity for them. And that
You,
really
you
did surprise me.
you made that sound very easy, Mike. I'm sure it
Um,
wasn't.
I hate to say it, but certain things in life that you're just damn good at without
Mm,
even knowing it.
yeah.
And I was, because the one thing I've always been is a straight arrow. I've always believed in talking straight, being honest about things, and don't sugarcoat things because it doesn't help people. Um, and at Vodafone, I was very lucky. I had the board of directors who were all, most people saw them as gods in Vodafone. And I would go in, I would knock on the door Monday morning at 9 o'clock when they're meeting, open the door going, right, where's my coffee? Of course, he got them all laughing. And, but one thing they did do is they gave me the time, they recognized my skills of making things happen.
Oh,
Um, and because of that, and I am proud of two things. One, me and my team were the inventors of text to speech. So if you know what Siri is in
mhm.
iPhone and OK Google and that, my team invented that.
Wow.
And we're very proud of that. Back in the day, we launched the world's first speaking phone back in 2002. Um, and
That's
it was,
quite some achievement, Mike. That's kind of changed the world for millions of
yeah,
people.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But to me, it's no big deal. And I'll tell you why it's no big deal. Well, because the world evolves all the time.
Yeah.
We're all evolving ourselves. And, I did it for two reasons. Yes, selfishly, I wanted to have access to text to speech because I like sending text messages and all those sort of things. But I also recognized that the government were very hot on using mobile phones while driving. So I thought, why don't we use the eyes busy concept as well?
Yeah. Incredible.
And so we launched that. And the other thing that I'm very proud of is I worked very closely with Manchester United, and we launched the world's first accessibility suite at Old Trafford. And what that did is in half time, when people were run off to get their meat pies and tubs of Bovril, or in Man United's case, prawn sandwiches, um,
Yeah.
it gave people with disabilities a place to go to the toilet, get a drink, get a meal without having to climb lots of steps. So they had a place to go. But that was made them then equal to everybody else around them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
And
was the same experience.
I guess a club like Manchester United, I suppose, when they do that, then other clubs take notice, and then other clubs start doing the same thing, don't they? So that's that ripple
So
effect.
I did have the privilege of spending some time with Sir Alex Ferguson. So I'm not name dropping, but I have to say he was the most amazing guy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as a manager, I wouldn't know. As a friend and as somebody I met on many occasions, he was a gentleman and he gave you time.
Yeah. Incredible. Do you think that obviously in a job like that, Mike, at Vodafone, I guess I don't know, 90% of it's people management, I suppose. Do you think that I'm sure this would be the case, that the blindness helps with that because you're not when you meet people or when you see people, you're not, or when you don't see people in your case, you're not, there's no judgment. You're just
Yeah.
taking them as they are. There's,
And you're absolutely right. And so I met some really amazing people. A lot of people go, "Oh wow!" To me, it was never like that.
yeah.
I don't get starry eyed over
Mm,
meeting David Beckham or Ruth Van Nistelrooy or Alex Ferguson and all these other people. But what I realise is that we're all people.
yeah.
We all have a skill. My skill was making things happen, opening doors, creating things that most people would shy away from because of the sensitivity, if you like.
Yeah.
And I never do that. And at Vodafone, I used to go all around the world on their behalf, and because of that, I became a really good envoy stroke ambassador for them, with the right sensitivity, but also making things happen. Which at the end of the day, it's all about bottom line anyway.
Yeah.
That's why anybody's in business. And I think that time at Vodafone really, I found my real self. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And I knew then that I had something to give. Okay, I was blind, but put that aside. It's only the eyes that don't work. The rest of me is perfectly okay occasionally. Um, but ultimately, it was about finding myself and saying, no, I don't have to be ashamed of who I am. I don't have to be worried that people are going to judge me on my blindness. I'm who I am. Take it or leave it.
Amazing. And Vodafone currently sponsoring the Welsh Rugby Union. I know you're a big fan of Welsh rugby, Mike. So.
Well, somebody's got to be up there, though.
We need all the support we can get at the moment.
I do love my rugby, and I love all the teams. I think they're all, great what they do. Like with the rugby is, I mean, I was brought up with some legends in Welsh rugby, like JPR Williams,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and so on. So yeah,
Yeah. All right.
just shame we can play football, isn't it?
Wrexham are doing all right at the moment, but
For
yeah.
God's
Anyway,
sake.
we don't have prawn sandwiches at Wrexham though. I can tell you that.
No, no,
Anyway,
probably more like fish cakes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, anyway.
um, it's okay. So I guess was it at that stage when you were at Vodafone doing that job? Was that when you had the initial thoughts about doing something with Inclusive Farm, or when did that
Um,
happen?
it was after Vodafone. I got made redundant from Vodafone. And I ran my own business for quite a few years, doing diversity, But then I started to look around me, and I guess what really triggered it, I was asked to do a piece of work by the government about diversity and employment. Because as you know, for the last how many years, even today, the government want to get people off benefits and into employment, and that's absolutely right. However, if employers won't employ disabled people, then you have a
Mm.
real problem to satisfy that particular thing. And I guess they asked me to do it because they knew my workings around statistics and looking at diversity in a, if you like, a much higher level. And the results from that were even for me, they were so shocking, Will. And I won't name names because it's not fair, but I was actually met with a really big recruitment company. And their words to me was, sorry, Mike, we don't do jobs for people like you.
God. Okay.
And that really frightened me.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean that in a very loose way. It really did frighten me because I thought, hang on, look at my CV. If
Mm.
they can look at me and go, you've got no chance, then 95% of the disabled population really haven't got a chance
Mm.
because I've just gone from call center at Vodafone to global head. Prior to that, I had a successful career in farming as a nutritionist, and I'm still running my own business that was making a profit and doing pretty well on the global platform. What the hell's going on? And that was what made me decide this has got to stop. There is a big problem here between reality and facts and statistics. And yes, we do have to reduce um, benefits and the reliance on social care finances because it's got out of control. But the reason it's got out of control is because everybody wants it to stop, but nobody's looking at why it's getting out of control and why we're having to pay more money out and what is the root of the problem, you know. And the root of the problem is at the moment we have a shortage of people in agriculture, we've got a shortage of people in other industries, but yet we've still got 9.5 million people sat on their asses at home who either are not working or don't want to work or can't work. So something's really wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and I know from without getting political, which I really don't want to do, employers have to realize that disabled people can give something and can do something. We're not the useless items that we probably were 60 years ago when the only thing we could do was telephony or basket weaving. Technology is much more advanced and we're much further forward and better educated. And because of that, we can do very well in business, as I proved at Vodafone and as I am proving now with the Inclusive Farm project.
Yeah. Do you think that's um, uh, yeah, it's pretty I mean that's pretty shocking to hear someone say that to you from a recruitment agency. I mean, I guess now, I mean, I'm sure there's still a long way to go, but most employers would realize, would they, the importance of diversity and what a diverse workforce can bring and the skills that I mean, surely that's changed, has it, in the last several years? Hopefully.
Sadly, no.
Okay.
Um, Article came out last year, only last year, done by the YouGov poll on um, employing disabled people. 1 in 4 employers said they'd never employ a blind person because they didn't think they could ever do the job.
Hmm.
And the statistics were horrific. I mean, still, 80% of people, able-bodied people, are in employment. Less than, well, 45% of disabled people are in employment.
Mm.
There's a massive gap somewhere. Where is it getting better? It's talked about more,
Yeah.
but as you know, Will, talk is very cheap,
Yeah.
um, and there's very few people really doing. And when they really do, they still have their stereotypes of what disabled people are. So if you're in a
Mm.
wheelchair or blind or whatever, everybody assumes if you're blind, you read Braille.
Mm.
Well, actually, only 4% do. Most blind people go blind later in life.
Hmm.
There's so many reasons behind it all, and I wonder whether it's still people still looking back at the old stereotypes as we do in other walks of life. Women are
Mm.
better served now in business and farming, but it wasn't that long ago where attitudes were very different.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's still a few Stone Age views out there in
Yeah,
there as
well,
well, isn't
let's
there?
not go there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, you're making it happen for yourself with Inclusive Farm. Tell us about the farm and how it works.
Right, Inclusive Farm started 5 years ago. I woke up basically one morning and said, right, okay, nobody's probably going to employ me. Let's do something ourselves. So let's get a piece of land and I will build the farm from scratch. And the reason why I wanted to do that, because I want people to come and see actually what an idiot like me could do. Right. And if I can do it, frankly, well, anybody can do it. Right. But as you know in life, sometimes it's better to have something tangible to show somebody
Yeah.
than just talk about it. So we got a piece of land. We rent from the Bedfordshire estate, which is near Woburn Safari Park. And we then promptly went and spent a load of money of our own money, not a penny from any grants, all our own money, to buy the timber, all the stuff, materials we need. And I built all the pens, all the fences, wired them up, built a big chicken house, a barn, etc., etc., etc. Filled it full of animals, pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, ducks, and then opened the gates and said, if anybody would like to come and learn about farming, if you have a difference, then let me know. Well, that was the biggest mistake I ever did. Uh, because frankly, even today, I could open 20 farms and fill it
Mm.
within hours. We got on, so we got involved with local schools, colleges, groups, individuals to come and learn. And the little farm down south here now does 20 students a week, coming through, has done for 4 years. We've done remarkable things. We got awarded Bedfordshire Business of the Year. We got awarded a countryside award, and then we got a Prime Minister's award as well last year for our impact on community. So, and the one thing we're also doing is getting people out of college into employment, and that's at the end of the day what it's all about. So we work with all sorts of diverse needs, and the aim is for them to come, learn, give them opportunity, choice to find their own niche in life, have a space where they can be themselves, and not be told what you can do, when you can do it, and how high you have to jump. Um, and because of, if you like, myself being a disabled person as well, they can relate to that. And I work alongside them to show them that I can do it, and it really helps them.
Amazing. And presumably most of those students and young people will have never been on farms before.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Most of them never even. I mean, we had a one blind lad come down from Manchester all the way to Bedfordshire with his parents, and he never knew what a pig looked like or felt like or chicken.
Hmm.
And yet he went to the end of that day. Well, I say he did. He went to the end of that day. We had to prize him away at the end of that day. And his parents have been a great supporters of ours ever since, because he learned what a chicken was looked like or felt like, a pig looked like, felt like. And I would take him in with all the animals and let him get his hands on,
Yeah.
because how's he ever going to know?
Mm.
Um, and what we do is, we're not a care farm, we're a working farm. So when people come, they come to learn, they come to spread their own wings, but in an environment that's conducive to their particular needs.
Yeah, I guess for parents of children and young people who come on the farm, it's probably quite an emotional experience, isn't it? Seeing how their kids respond. I can
Yeah,
imagine, as you know, as a parent myself, I can imagine that would be a hell of an emotional thing.
yeah, it is, it is. And you know, I've had to comfort mothers, grandmothers. In
Mm,
fact, I had to comfort a father who was in absolute floods of tears
yeah.
because his son or daughter, they, I think the one of the proudest moments for me, I was doing we had a group of kids, blind children, funny enough, come out from a school in Luton to the farm, and they got a lot of chance to hands on. And then I went back to the school a few weeks later and gave a talk to the whole school and presented them with my partner Ness. She makes a lot of this thing called crocheting, and she made the three little pigs,
Oh yeah.
which we donated to the children. And this one girl, there was the deputy head was there, and this one girl turned to her and said, "Look at this pig. This was made by the partner of a guy who's like me,"
Amazing.
and that floored me.
Yeah, but
um, because I know that will set her out. When I said to her, "So, what are you going to be when you grow up?" She said, "What do you think?" And I said, "A doctor, a nurse." She said, "No, a pig farmer."
Oh, it's amazing. Amazing.
So it's great, and if we can do it for the kids, because they're our future, Will.
Yeah, yeah.
And absolutely, as a father myself, um, we just want the best for them. And there's so many out there who are being left behind.
Mm. 100%. Have you had lots of support from the farming industry with this, from other farmers, from wider industry bodies and organisations? Have they got
Farming,
behind you?
yeah. I mean, so we've got a new farm opening in Scotland in September. It's a much bigger farm. It's we've got buildings, we've got acreage. We're going to have Highland cattle. We're going to have sheep. We're going to have, of course, pigs, um, and we have a load of volunteers. I mean, we've only been in Scotland 6 months, and already I've got 19 volunteers, most of which are farmers.
Wow.
And they come and they've brought machines. They've brought, we'll put some sheep on there, graze it, and we'll bring our machine. We'll get that top for you, Mike. And it's so humbling. Well,
Mm.
the farmers are the best anyway, and because I'm one of them, but they are the best. British farmers are the best in the world by far. Um, and so I didn't say Welsh farmers, did I? No,
I was waiting for
joking. I
that.
should probably get a message from Will, Will Pritchard,
Yeah.
and Alan Jones. They'll be in touch soon. Give me some absolute crap. But no, seriously, Will, I've been inundated. I've had companies that are in the agriculture industry get in touch with me, go, "How can we help?"
Mm.
I've had so much. So it will open in September. Um, yes, we've got things to do. We're still raising. We're now a full fledged charity, um, and it costs a lot to set a farm like that up, to make it fully accessible, the buildings right, the kit right, as you know what a farm
Mm.
costs anyway. So we are having to raise money, but we're slowly getting there with a lot of help.
Where can, if anyone's listening to this who's a representative from a organization or a company, or even just as an individual, how can they find out
We have
about helping?
okay, we have a Just Giving page, which is on, we call it IFSAM, which is ifsam.org.uk. So that's Inclusive Farm Scotland at McRobert. And the McRobert is a McRobert Trust in Scotland who'd actually donated the farm to us.
Fantastic. Okay, I
Um,
will put that. I'll put that link in the show notes if anyone's
that
listening.
that would be fantastic, and thank you. So yes, so at the moment, I'm wearing a hard hat. I'm doing building work. I'm pulling buildings down. We've had a lovely donation from Kawasaki. One of their mules was a UTV, and that's been a huge help for the farm.
Okay.
And we're still looking out for second-hand machinery kit, to build the farm up to get it where we need to be.
And where do you need to be with it, Mike? What's your long-term vision for it? Where would you like it to go?
So the plan is that uh, the farm is up and running. We'll work across from Aberdeenshire and all. Well, the idea is to cover all of Scotland. The farm down in Bedfordshire will carry on covering down here. Eventually, I would like one in Wales and Northern Ireland, to represent everybody in farming. And each farm is going to be different because of the agriculture that it represents. I mean, joking aside, Wales is very renowned for its number of sheep
Hmm.
and hill cattle. So that would probably focus more on that. Scotland, again, a lot of sheep, a lot of cattle, um, fisheries. So we're trying to look at as much as we can because, like I said, the agricultural industry is vast, and we've got forestry, fishery, food, and we're trying to be involved with all of it to give people as wide a choice as possible.
Yeah, that's so exciting, Mike. Yeah, when you're probably up and running in Scotland, if it's all right, I'll try and come up and visit because
You better.
Aberdeenshire, isn't it?
Yeah, Aberdeenshire. Yeah, you better bring the family, and I'll give you a taste of Scotland, but from some proper English hospitality.
It'll be wonderful. It'll be wonderful. I got friends up in Aberdeenshire anyway, so yeah, it'd be good to get up there. All right,
Yeah.
Mike. You and I have talked a lot about music when we've met because people won't also realize not only do you do everything you've already done, you're also an accomplished musician. Tell me about that.
Yes. Well, I've played in bands for most of my life. Just recently, last year, due to obviously the move, I was in a very successful country rock band called Boss and the Hogs.
Great
And
name.
and I don't. And last night, funny enough, because I'm back down south, I found out where they were practicing, and I walked in on them. And the opening comment was, "Oh my God, the boss is back." um, but yes, so I was the drummer for them for many years, but I'd also play bass guitar for another band, and I'm also play banjo and keyboards and guitar and all sorts of stuff. So I'm heavily involved with the music scene in Scotland. The local pub, we've got a little band going. The landlady who sings and plays guitar, myself on banjo and bass, and another guy on guitar and box drum. And we call ourselves the Rolling Gnomes. There's a bit of a laugh, but it's about enjoying that downtime. Well, music is very important to me.
Mm.
Has been all my life, and I've been very fortunate I can pick an instrument up and play it. um, and it gives me a lot of peace when I'm not at work. You know, farming can be quite stressful, especially when the weather's against you. You're trying to get harvest in, or you're in the
Yeah.
middle of lambing. Sometimes you do need time to step away, and that's mine. Very much, my music is that.
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to those heightened senses again, doesn't it? Because there's an awful lot of blind. There's always been some tremendously famous blind musicians throughout history, isn't there? So I guess
Uh,
it's that blindness as a superpower, really, in terms of being able to pick up any instrument, I guess.
yeah, I mean, it's. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, there has been some good people, and to me, music is a way of expressing myself. Sometimes when I always can't, and sometimes I can't.
Hmm.
So sometimes I will just pick up the guitar and play a song, and it's my way of expressing myself when I'm feeling what I'm feeling at that day. And it could be you know something from the rock world or something from the country music world.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, Mike. As we're on music, and I've probably kept you for long enough, so I'm sure you've got plenty to do on the farm. But we will end this in the traditional way with the five quick questions. I know you're excited about this because some of them are music based, and I've been excited to ask you this as
It's really
well.
painful. This is.
What's the best gig you've ever been to? It could be anything, music, comedy, anything. Best
Yeah,
live
no,
gig.
the best one for me will was seeing my beloved Eagles at the O2 for my 40th birthday.
Wow. Well, what's your favorite Eagles song?
Oh, that's a horror. It'll be either Hotel California, of course, or probably Lying Eyes.
Yeah, they're also good, aren't they? I love Take It Easy as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh,
amazing.
yeah. Great song.
Amazing. All right. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
My dad's bit of advice to me, and it actually came from a song, and it goes, "No matter how high you build your stack, they don't build hearses with roof racks."
Really good. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, and I think that's stayed with me all my life.
Mm, very good. I like that. Okay. What's the best book you've ever read?
Very easy, this one. Um, Lord of the Rings by J.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
Brilliant book. The ability for a blind person, especially, to really live the atmosphere of the book.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Tolkien nerd myself. My 11-year-old daughter's reading it at the moment. I'm reading it with her. And you mentioned Oxford earlier, and obviously that's where we first met at the Oxford Farming Conference. But
Yeah,
we had a board meeting in Oxford before the conference one day, and I sneaked off to the Lamb and Flag, which was where Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and the gang used to meet, and spent a few happy hours nerding out in there. So
yeah, no, great book with great what I call innovation.
yeah, for sure. Okay, if you could meet any historical figure, who would it be and why?
This was a hard one because there was a number of people, and when you say historically, you see, because I think, well, how far do we go back for this? Because I have two people in my life that have always been my look up to, and they would be Ian Botham and Frank Bruno, because they were two people that no matter what adversity came to them, they never gave up.
Yeah.
And that is me. But I guess if we're going back in proper history, it would probably be Henry Ford, because as a car fanatic, what he did is he gave cars to the masses
Yeah.
and changed people's lives and the ability to commute, to go places, and enrich people's lives.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I guess we've probably I have a photo of my great grandparents with their first car, that the Model T, and probably
Yeah,
everybody's got that
yeah,
photo somewhere in their family,
yeah.
haven't they?
But
So
think what it did for society.
yeah, yeah, and they were sort of very kind of working class tenant farmers, and
Yeah,
they're all sort of standing around this Model T looking so proud on that kind of life-changing
yeah,
day. But
yeah, absolutely.
great answer. Okay, and finally, then the most difficult question. Everyone
Oh,
finds this hard. What is your all-time favorite song?
okay. I'm going to go with my. I probably have, this is hard. I'm going to go with my go-to song, no matter how I'm feeling, and it'll be "Whiskey in the Jar" by Thin Lizzy.
I hoped you'd go for a Thin Lizzy song. Amazing.
Yeah, to me, I'm not a religious man. The closest thing to God will always be Phil Lynott.
Yeah. Well, you know this, but I spoke to you not, I don't know when it was, but we were going, Sarah and I, my wife, were going to Dublin not long afterwards, and you said make sure you go and see the Phil Lynott statue, and we did,
Yeah,
in Dublin, and
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolute legend. And I use that word because legend is used too easily sometimes. But he really, for me, as a growing up teenager, he was probably my idol. So I will give it to him. And Whiskey in the Jar is a really simple song to play, but has an awful lot of great meaning.
fantastic. All right, Mike, it's been great to catch up with you as always. It's such an inspiring story. I love what you're doing with Inclusive Farm, and I will again, I will put the link in the show notes if anyone wants to help and support. And I promise we will get up there to visit one day. And yeah, I'm so excited to see what it becomes over the next few years.
Look, good luck with you and the family, and I hope the farm doesn't go underwater this year.
Me
Last,
too.
I think last time we were giving up sheep for rowing boats, weren't we?
I was. The flooding hasn't been quite as bad this winter, so I'm saying that with both hands firmly on the wooden desk, touching wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, fingers
Good luck,
crossed.
Phil. Well, sorry, we're not Phil. Phil
That's a
Line is back again.
That's a Freudian slip. I'm not quite as good a musician, but all right. Cheers, Mike. Thank you
Cheers,
very much.
mate.
Great to
Look after
speak to
yourself.
you.
Thanks for the time.
And to everyone at home, thanks for
Yeah.
listening, and hope to see you next time. I've been Will Evans. This has been Rock and Roll Farming. Thank you and good night.